Hi, I'm Mark Scherer. I'm the CEO and founder of Encompass Life and the host of the Wellness Revolution podcast, where we bring people on who are challenging the status quo in health and bringing new ideas to the forefront. And today we have a gentleman from Austin, Devish Patel, and his company is called Enamel Dentistry, and he's in Austin, Texas, and he is doing something very different in the dentistry field. So I'm looking forward to interviewing you, sir. Welcome
Look
to the
forward
show.
to it as well. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, Devish, we've been talking a little bit, and I read your application, and you said that you're working with breathing techniques to assist with enamel in the teeth. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
so
getting at?
not necessarily breathing techniques, but how your oral environment like affects your breathing is really so think of it the other way around. It's more just like the mechanics of breathing and how your teeth relate to it. So I can definitely expand on that, but the idea is we're screening for sleep apnea. That's a really common thing, and the data shows that 20% of the population has some form of sleep apnea, and 80% of those people never get it diagnosed or even know that they have it. And sleep apnea is like one of those things that that causes a lot of comorbidities, like you not sleeping well or breathing well in your sleep increases hypoxia, which basically causes a ton of inflammation to your bodily organs, which leads to a lot of systemic problems, cardiovascular disease, just anything inflammatory related, right? And the oral environment is one of your major sources for low grade inflammation. So things like periodontal disease and that kind of thing. So we try to like our whole like differentiation factor is being more, hey, we're here to help you with your general health, and obviously we want to fix your cavities, and obviously we want to do whatever you want to whiten your teeth. We can help you with that as well. But the idea here is, we want to make sure we're bringing awareness to, the things that happen inside the mouth that are causing problems throughout your overall health.
Gotcha. So, how does sleep apnea affect the teeth?
Yeah, so it's more that like when you have a collapse, so it's more that the signs on your teeth show that you can have sleep apnea, right? So when you grind your teeth, or if you have a really collapsed bite, or you have a really high vaulted palate, all of those things narrow the airway, and the narrowing of the airway causes your tongue to fall back more when you sleep. So obstructive sleep apnea is basically what I'm referring to. There's a couple of different ways to have sleep apnea, and you wouldn't necessarily know until you had a sleep study done. So when we look in the mouth, we're looking for those signs. We're looking for high vaulted palates. We're looking for tori, which is just like large bony protrusions in your mouth. We're looking for scalloping on your tongue. So we don't necessarily just treat teeth. We're looking at the soft tissue in the mouth as well. So another fun stat to share: if you have scalloping on your tongue, which just means like you can see the ridges of the teeth on your tongue, like in a more layman term. There's a 70% chance you may have mild to moderate sleep apnea if your tongue like shows up like that. So you can do this at home. Just look in the mirror, look at the side of your tongue, and does it look like that cauliflower shape essentially, where like the ridges of your teeth are elongate? And if that's the case, maybe a good idea for you to get a sleep study done. So the idea for us is like, hey, we want to make sure we bring awareness to what sleep apnea is to patients, see if we see those signs in the mouth, and then get you referred over to a board certified sleep physician to get tested for sleep apnea.
And so, when you send them to a sleep apnea specialist, what happens? What changes in the dental world?
Yeah, so a couple things, right? So they do the sleep study, and if the sleep study shows, okay, you have obstructive sleep apnea, right? Can you still hear me? I'm sorry. Yeah, if you have obstructive sleep apnea, that's something that we can treat, with the dental appliance as well. There's a couple ways that you treat obstructive sleep apnea. One is with the CPAP. So people who have severe sleep apnea, they have to utilize a CPAP. Essentially, it's that machine. You wear a mask on your face, it makes noise, it sits on the side of your bed. Life saving. A lot of patients use it, and they need it. I mean, they're just not breathing well in their sleep, and if they didn't have it, it would cause a lot of severe health problems, including, nighttime heart attacks um, and high stroke risk. So CPAP is the gold standard for treating sleep apnea, but people with mild to moderate sleep apnea can actually utilize what's called a mandibular advancement appliance. So essentially what it does is, conceptually, when you have obstructive sleep apnea, your tongue falls to the back of your throat when you're sleeping, and it causes a restriction of the air that you're getting. So what we're able to do is make a mouthpiece that sits on your upper and your lower jaw, but it protrudes your lower jaw while you're sleeping so that it keeps that airway open. So, another big thing is like snoring, right? People who have sleep apnea tend to snore, but just because you snore doesn't mean you have sleep apnea. But if you snore, it's probably a good idea to get tested for sleep apnea, just because you want to rule out that obstruction, right? But really, so in the dental world, what we can do is if the sleep doctor says, okay, you have mild to moderate sleep apnea, these are your treatment options, and one of those options is an oral appliance. The advantage of an oral appliance is people tend to be a little more compliant than with CPAP, just because it's a little easier to put in, and it's not something that's strapped to you. You can just kind of go to sleep, toss and turn, and then it's not really an intrusion, much easier to keep clean and that kind of thing as well. So I mean, that's generally like the treatment that we offer for patients with mild to moderate sleep apnea.
Gotcha. And so you were saying, so somebody who has sleep apnea, they can, like, it can affect their like periodontal issues as well. Is that what?
Yeah. So essentially, a lot of like periodontal issues are more related to, especially if it's during your sleep, is mouth breathing. If you're falling asleep with your mouth open, it dries out the oral environment, which
Mm,
also causes inflammation in the mouth as well, right? So mouth breathing is more of a fail-safe, right? If you're breathing through your mouth, it's to keep you alive, basically, but you really want to be breathing through your nose, and you want to make sure that that's as optimal as possible. And one thing I'm always sharing with my docs is like, when we take a panoramic X-ray, the one that spins around your head, that big X-ray, we're actually taking an X-ray of your nose as well. And what other doctor are you going to that's taking an X-ray of your nose? Probably, I would guess not very many, unless you're going to
mm,
an ENT for something specific, right? So,
mm.
it's a great conversation starter. You see something on an X-ray where there's a deviation in the septum, you can actually see those things, and it's a great conversation starter with a patient. Like, hey, how are you breathing out of both sides of your nose, right? And what impact may that be having on your teeth? Because when you don't breathe efficiently and correctly through your nose, it actually kicks in your sympathetic nervous system in your sleep, which causes you to clench and grind more. So, we treat clenching and grinding, kind of as a symptom, or sometimes, or as a disease, but it actually is just a symptom of like a lot of other things, right? Whether it's stress related, whether it's sleep apnea, whether it's family history. A lot of like nighttime, functional activity can be related to, a combination of those things.
Gotcha. So whenever I was a kid, I never heard that people would have sleep apnea. This seems to be some new diagnosis over the last 30 years or so. Is that?
Like I can't really speak on the history of it. I know like, sleep physicians are pretty common, and there are a bunch of different like diseases that you get that can be sleep related, but sleep apnea is one of the more common ones. And with an aging population, this is like definitely more and more just prevalent and like more and more noticed now.
What's the cause of the apnea itself?
What's the cause of the apnea itself? It really is like depending on if it's central or obstructive. Like, we're speaking about obstructive sleep apnea. If it's central sleep apnea, that just means that your brain isn't communicating to your lungs to breathe. So that in itself can't be treated with something with oral appliance. You have to use the CPAP. Something has to be positively pushing airway down into your system at that point, right? But this is obstructive sleep apnea that we're talking about, and what exacerbates it. Generally, like I said, a lot of the things that I like explained that happen in the mouth, right? You have a collapsed bite, you have a narrow jaw, you have a big tongue, you have scalloping on your tongue. We look for the something called a Malapati score, and it's basically, like looking at the soft tissue in your mouth and how it arches down. If you open your mouth and you can't see the back of your throat, you're at a higher risk of having sleep apnea. So it's really just a risk assessment in a lot of these things. So it's anatomical. Just some lifestyle things. Obesity really increases your risk of having something, because having a lot of visceral fat around your neck will increase or will like shrink the airway size and will cause you to have sleep apnea. A lot of patients with sleep apnea that are like moderate or severe, if they lose a bunch of weight, that actually tends to come down and like put you back in the mild range, or even bring it down a lot, and to some cases where you don't necessarily need to be relying on something in your sleep.
Gotcha. I'm getting quite an education from you, sir. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, and you're in Austin, Texas, yes,
Yes.
and your practice is on the east side of town.
Oh, we have a couple locations in town. We have seven, and we have a couple more coming in. So we have two or three practices that primarily focus on the sleep side right now, but it is something we're expanding into all of the offices.
Gotcha. And this is your company, Enamel Dentistry?
Yeah, I'm one of the founders. Me and a friend of mine, we started this crazy idea 8 years ago, and just it's really taken off, and we've been blessed to for it to go a certain way.
Gotcha. So you and your friend started this company. So what is your position, CEO or founder, or what do you
So
call yourself?
so me and my partner were both co-founders, and I guess if I had a position on the chief dental officer, I'd focus on the clinical side of things, mentoring docs, and finding like new procedures that we can implement, and just helping and mentor the teams to make sure we're providing good high quality care to our patients.
And what's his position?
He does like a lot of the CFO side of things. He's managing the books, and I mean we're it's a small business, so we're kind of have our hands on everything. We give ourselves titles, but at the end of the day, like
Yeah, everybody.
whatever's yeah, well,
Yeah, I'm
it's all
just
hands on deck.
yeah, I'm just looking at so 8 years, seven location, and adding more.
Yeah,
I mean, that's phenomenal.
thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, most business, a lot of time, people struggle with one location,
Yeah,
and you're moving to multi locations in an area that was already had a lot of dentists in it. So
yeah.
you're doing something that really distinguishes you from your competition.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think so. It's something that we work on every day, and it's it's intentional. We want to make sure we're providing value that isn't just what you can get anywhere you go, right? Like that's really the idea. That's how you set yourself apart in a like you mentioned, a very dense, heavily dentist populated environment like
Yeah,
Austin is.
and all the national companies coming in as well, and all those things. So to carve out a niche and grow the way you're doing something right. I'm ask you a question also. So you have the dental practices that's just really changing you. But for you to go to this level of locations in a short period of time, it says something about your leadership as well. So what's your philosophy on leadership, Devish?
Oh, with leadership, it's very much to me, it's an internal game. I think like one of the things that I've really found throughout this whole process that is, all of your strengths get highlighted in the business, and so do all of your weaknesses, right? So I think leadership is a lot about like really understanding what you're good at, and also really understanding what you're not good at, and making sure you're surrounding yourself with people that can help mitigate the things that are limitations for you, and you being a good support system for them, because that's something that they're good at, right? So the way I see leadership, it's very much like being supportive, and being someone who's there to help make sure you're aligned in their success, not just necessarily your success. And I think like that's kind of helped us be um, helped us have a lot less turnover, and we try to have an environment where we can be open and give each other feedback and learn and grow. And vulnerability is really important. When I like earlier on, I thought I always had to have all the answers, and if I didn't have the answers, then it would like people would look down upon the fact that why don't I know everything. And then I learned that that's not how leadership works. If you're vulnerable and you're able to share like, hey, these are the things I struggle with, I need your help with this, it allows everybody else around you to do the same kind of thing, and that really elevates what you're doing.
Great answer, man. Great answer.
Thanks.
Yep. I mean, I knew you had a great story behind on your leadership with the many locations you have. Yeah, doing what we do here too. I'm a big picture kind of a guy, and I I know what the systems are, should be doing, but so far as designing, well, I can help on the design of systems, but the implementation of it, no, no. From I surround myself with people who love details, and I focus on big picture. So
Yeah.
that's what I love.
Honestly, yeah, I'm right there with you. I like that's how my brain works. Is like I can help you piece some things together, give you a vision, but like the execution of it, I definitely need help with for sure.
Yeah, great. And there's really there's two types of people: people who have the vision and can convey it in such a way that people who love fulfilling those visions of people provide the details and fill it in because people, some people just love doing that, and that's a great mixture. Have you ever read a book called Traction by Gino Wickman by any
Yeah.
chance?
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
feeling you did.
Yeah. Traction's great. I would recommend Rocket Fuel if you haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, I have.
Mm.
Also, have you read Language and the Pursuit of Happiness for Business?
No,
It's a great book too.
I'm gonna have to write that one down.
Yeah. Um, Chalmers' brother wrote that book.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
great
definitely
book.
check them out. I love book recommendations, so always
Yeah,
share.
and I'm sure you've done some of Michael Gerber's books or
Yep,
John
Gerber. Big
Maxwell
fan.
or any some of those as well.
Yeah, I think like reading and learning are. I think it's going back to your question on leadership. I think a lot of leadership is learning, not necessarily like like the execution of things. I think it's good for you to be able to pick up new ideas and be able to like inspire yourself and create be able to innovate, and you're able to only do that if you're able to learn pretty at a consistent cadence, right? So I think that's a big component of leadership in my mind.
Yeah, well, I have a little thing I keep on my desk. I've had it on my desk for decades now. And it says leading organizations successfully today requires leaders to transform themselves personally. New leadership literature shows a consistent correlation between personal leadership success and their level of self mastery. The greater their self mastery, the greater their success. And that's Mark Mickelson and John Anderson wrote that quote. And it's,
Love it.
yeah, that's what you're doing too, is you're getting over your, I guess you call it vulnerability, but I call it shame.
Or pride, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's just, yeah, but there's a well, there's a difference between pride and arrogance.
Yeah.
Pride is doing a job well and being proud of your accomplishments. Arrogance is having the like not wanting to admit that you can't do something, and the shame of not being able to do it creates that arrogance that has you fail.
Love that definition.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think earlier on that was a problem. It was more arrogance than it was anything else.
yeah, yeah. I know scripture that also says pride comes before the fall, but really it's the ignorance and the arrogance combined together,
Yeah,
and shame is what holds it in a place and keeps you from succeeding.
absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Um, what? How can people reach out to you, and what's the best way for people to get in contact with you? Or another way, let me ask you this way: who's your perfect client?
Who's my perfect client? Like I think the easy answer to that is someone who's like invested in their health and wanting to live to some degree like just a healthier and more optimal lifestyle. I think that person fits the bill for our perfect client. I think especially like anytime anything that's health related, there's a lot of like a personal responsibility component of it, right? And when patients come in with the energy of like, hey. And one of my favorite type of person is that comes in is like, hey, I haven't gone to the dentist in a really long time, and I kind of been putting it off even more purely because I was ashamed of the fact of going. And
Right,
the first thing I like to share is like, A, you're not alone in that, and B, you overcame that and you're here now, right? So let's problem solve, work together, and get you to your actual goal of being healthy. You wouldn't be here otherwise, right?
right,
So that to me is the ideal client, is someone in that mindset of, hey, I want to make sure I'm healthy, and most of the time people come in and everything is fine. There's nothing that needs to be done. They get their teeth cleaned, and everything is, it's a spa day, right? But
right, right.
there are other times when we got to have some conversations that are intended to just make you better off long term.
Yeah, you got a great persona for the conversations. Easy going, dude.
Oh
Real
yeah,
real
yeah,
real straightforward and easy going.
yeah. You got to be.
Awesome. So, and where are your locations?
Yeah, so like in Austin, we're kind of all around town. We actually have one in Dallas too that we opened last year as well.
Wow.
But that was yeah, that's that's like way out in McKinney. And I guess contextually in Austin, we're mostly central. We have a couple that are more in the outskirts. We have one out in Manor, one on Southwest Parkway in William Cannon, which is a little more west.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the other ones are central. We have one downtown on Fifth Street, and then we have one on South Lamar. We have one in the Domain area. We have one in off Mopac, right, just north of downtown.
So like around
Um,
Jefferson or
so 45th Street. It's right about 45th Street and Mopac is where that location is.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And are they like in office buildings? You freestanding or how
Um,
y'all rolling?
all kind of different. Like they're all like leased retail spaces. So I think two of them are in office buildings. The rest of them are in well, two of them are in apartment complexes, and then the rest of them are in freestanding buildings.
Oh, like the apartment complexes with the retail down and complex
Right,
above. Gotcha.
right.
Gotcha. Cool. Um, Man, great getting to know you here. And I believe you're doing some wonderful things with your clients, and it's showing in your expansion in such a short period of time as well. So, your website for people to get to find you?
Yeah, www.enameldentistry.com. That's our office website. You can always email me. I'm always I check all my emails myself. I always have, and I don't necessarily like pawn that off to anybody else. So it's Dr. Devish Patel at enameldentistry.com. That's probably the easiest way to reach me, and
Mhm.
love to help anybody in any way I can.
Right. And it's Devish and Patel, Patel. The
Yep.
Patel, I've heard a lot. Devish is the first time. So thank you for having me on the show. I do have one question I part with.
Sure.
And the question I part with is, what do you love about life?
What do I love about life? Oh
Yeah.
man, that's a great question. Laughter. I know it's a very high level, like and I think as laughter incorporates connection, laughter incorporates, positivity, it incorporates, having a good time, not taking yourself too seriously. So
Nice.
I think if there's one thing that like I do a lot of, it's laugh because I just really enjoy it, and I think it just helps connect and bridge a gap, and especially like chair side, if I can get a patient to laugh, I know we're gonna get along great.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same. You know, Laughter is big when we do too. We do some really, really deep emotional work as well. And one of the things I make sure we do is if I could get a client laughing, I got them.
Yeah.
They said to create a pattern shift, it normally takes 400 to 600 repetitions to create a pattern shift, unless you use humor. If you use humor, it only takes 10 to 20.
Wow.
Now, personally, I believe I'm really funny and I can do it in 3 to 5.
Nice. My kind of guy, Mark. My kind of guy.
Thank you. So, thank you for being on the show, Devish, and much success to you, sir.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me, Mark.
You're welcome.